Kanzeon Namo Butsu Yo Butsu In Yo Butsu En Buposo En Jo Rakuga Jo Chonen Kanzeon Bonen Kanzeon Nen Nen Jushin Gi Nen Nen Furi Shin. This is the Kanzeon Ten Clause Sutra. It's used in the Zen schools in Japan. Well, I don't especially want to talk about Zen specifically. It's an invocation of Kanzeon. Kanzeon, Guanxi in Chinese, Avalokiteshvara, Chenrezi. And in the Tibetan system, Chenrezi has various other manifestations like Tara and so on. All across the Buddhist world, even in Theravada countries, there are many people who draw some inspiration from the idea of this many-named manifestation, Guanxi. Guanxi, I'll use the Chinese name for now, represents the spirit of compassion of Buddha. This spirit of compassion is certainly one of the most important dimensions of what we are taking refuge in. Will we become great compassionate beings ourselves? Who knows? Who knows? Perhaps. Certainly we sometimes make great resolutions, we make great vows, great statements of intention. However innumerable sentient beings are, I vow to help them all. And then, within 24 hours, perhaps I've had a falling out with somebody because they made some trivial mistake in the kitchen or something. What happened to the great compassionate being? This is the kind of creatures we are. So it's not just that we might become great compassionate beings. That would be wonderful. Please, Buddha, make me a great compassionate being. I shall be very grateful. It's also that we are recipients of great compassion. We're recipients of the great compassion of nature. We are alive. We are fed, we are housed, we receive innumerable benefits in many, many ways. When the human being is the most vulnerable of animals in some ways. When we're born, when we're little, if somebody doesn't pick us up and look after us and feed us, we die quite quickly. We are very, very dependent. If an antelope is born, within an hour or two it's running with the herd. And within a day it's eating grass like the rest. But humans, we are terribly vulnerable like this. And not only in infancy, but all through our lives, we are receiving huge benefits. And reflecting on these benefits, what have I received? What have I given in return? What burden has my existence placed upon other beings, upon the world? This is an immensely important reflection. Somewhere at the core of taking refuge is a sense of gratitude. I've emphasized in earlier talks, gratitude, the refuge is immediate. When you take refuge, immediately you are in the spiritual life. And sense of gratitude is like that. It's an impulse. Something wells up in us when we feel genuine gratitude. Something changes in us. Our attitude to life changes. And what we have as Buddhist practitioners, what we have to be most grateful for is that Buddha came into the world, that Buddha existed, that Buddha made this great discovery, that Buddha discovered liberation, and by being liberated, by living a liberated life, full of compassion, he brought into the world this possibility for us to also encounter it and to be touched by it. And so, gratitude, very central part of what taking refuge is. And just sitting down each day and having some sense of gratitude, some review of the evidence of the life, life we have lived this day, or the life that lies ahead of us if we're doing our practice in the morning. Having an openness, a willingness to look in an honest sort of way at what is there, we're likely to feel gratitude. There's a lot of emphasis these days in Buddhist writings, Buddhist teachings on something called interdependence, even interbeing. And there's great value in this. It's a very useful way of thinking. But when you go to some of the most early Buddhist texts, you certainly come across references to interdependence. But interdependence tends to be treated as a rather special case. And what comes across really in my reading of it, my study of it, is not so much interdependence as our sheer dependence. There are so many things that we rely upon. We rely on the sunshine. If the sun were to disappear now, in 7 minutes' time, which is the length of time it takes the radiation to reach this planet, we would all disappear, just like that, gone. But if I were to disappear, would the sun mind? Would it make any difference to the sun? Not really. Not now. Not in 7 minutes' time. Not in 1,000 years' time. Will it really make any difference to the sun whether I am here or not? So, dependency is often very one way. I am very dependent on the sun, but it is not really dependent on me at all. And it's when we reflect in this way, on this kind of complete dependency that we are caught up in, that we are, in a sense, we are nothing more than this dependency. It's a cause for great gratitude. Let's think about the word refuge in its simple meaning. What does it mean in the English language, refuge? To find a refuge. We talk about a ship finding refuge from the storm, or refuge is a kind of asylum. If you're a refugee, I remember Chogyam Trungpa, who I studied with many years ago, used to talk about how we're all refugees, all us Buddhists, we're all refugees. Of course, he himself was one of the first Tibetan refugees to come out of Tibet. But Buddhists take refuge, so we're all refugees, all of us. Well, what are we refugees from? We're refugees from the corruption of the world. We're refugees from killing. We're refugees from lying. We're refugees from cheating. We're refugees from gossip and slander and so on. Things which are common enough in the world. Sometimes we think these things shouldn't happen. Killing shouldn't happen. Lies shouldn't happen. Bad things shouldn't happen. And we perhaps put a lot of effort into trying to change the world in some way so that we will have a world where these things don't happen. But these things do happen. And nobody has yet managed to create a world where they don't happen. It is certainly good to reduce these things if we can. But the fact is, we are in a world where a great deal of such is bound to happen. Many forms of life on this planet only live by destroying other forms of life. We ourselves can hardly live without doing quite a lot of damage. Even if I were vegan, even if you are vegan, you perhaps still eat a loaf of bread. And this loaf of bread has been made from wheat, and this wheat has probably been collected by a combine harvester, which went across a field and in the process destroyed not just the life of the grass that it cut, but many little creatures that were living in that field. It was a profound experience for me personally once when I was actually living on a farm, and I saw the wheat being gathered in and sent up into the hoppers. And I looked down into the pit where the grains of wheat were being gathered together to go into the, I don't know what it's called, but the chute that lifts them up into the hopper. And there were hundreds of little insects that had managed to struggle up to the surface. No doubt there were many more that hadn't got that far, but which any minute now were going to be sucked up and crushed. This was a profound moment for me, and it puts me in mind of the fact that the Buddha himself, an early stage in his own spiritual growth, was the ploughing festival when he was a child. When he was a child, he saw the ploughing festival, he saw the first furrow of earth cut, he saw that earth turned over, and all the little creatures that lived in the soil were brought to the surface, and down flew the birds and ate them. And this was so that good vegetable food could be grown for us to eat. So there is no escape. I personally am vegetarian. To me, it expresses my. It's a way of expressing the compassion, which is part of my Buddhist refuge. But I am not under any illusions that by being so, I'm somehow pure, somehow exempt from the amount of suffering that is in the world. And all these creatures, they are losing their life so that I can be fed. What should I feel? Should I feel great guilt? Or should I feel enormous gratitude? It seems to me that the Buddhist spirit is that of feeling gratitude. We live in a world such as it is. And if we can feel gratitude, this is a beginning. This is one beginning of refuge.